Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Fraser-Thill, and thanks for taking time to be here with us today. I'm the director of Purposeful Work here at Bates. I'm also a lecturer in the psychology department, where I teach about developmental psychology in particular. And one of my favorite classes is a class called Advanced Topics in Developmental Psychology, where we talk all about the search for meaning and purpose across the lifespan. So this is right up my alley, and I'm really excited to get to talk to you about supporting your students' purposeful work. And what I'll do is I'll talk for about 20-25 minutes and then open it up for questions so we can have some time to discuss what purposeful work looks like here at Bates. But I wanted to start with talking a little bit about how this presentation came to be. So parenting and caregiving, it feels a lot like this kind of incremental launch sequence, right? There's all these series of launches that we do over the lifetime, and you're engaging in a really big one. I know this is a busy day, not only physically, but emotionally extremely taxing. And I'm at an early launch right now. My daughter, my first child, is heading off to kindergarten next week, which feels like more of a launch than I expected and more emotionally taxing than I expected. So I can only imagine where you must be at this point, since my daughter's only going 2 streets away from our home, of course, so not a big launch. But I find myself I keep thinking about what might she encounter in this coming year? What are the opportunities and the challenges that she's going to face, that she's going to keep coming back to me and asking for advice? And if there's anything we know about parenting and caregiving, it's that consistency is most important. If we are saying a consistent message to the students that we're working with, then they are going to be able to internalize that message and take that forward with them so that they can feel confident in their journey going forward. So when the Purposeful Work team and I started thinking about this presentation, myself, Mary Ann Cowan, and Christina Patrick, who are here as well, we were all thinking about the ways that we could invite you to partner with us, the faculty and staff at Bates, to deliver a consistent message to your students across all 4 years with a particular focus on the first year, so that we will be able to support purposeful work best of all. Mary Ann's actually launching one of her children off to college right now, so she's very much in your shoes, and it will be reflected in our presentation today. So let me start with a scenario. So you leave today, right? Well, you go, you say your goodbyes, and spoiler alert, there might be a few tears, right? And you head home, you settle back in, your student makes it through the whole ASOP experience just fine, starts classes, nothing too scary happens there, the roommate's working out pretty well, everything is moving along. And then you get that phone call or that text message at a time that you wouldn't expect. And it's something like, well, if it was a text, maybe like this, perhaps. This is your first parenting quiz, is a parenting or caregiving to a college student. What does this say? Anybody have any? No? You can talk to the person next to you. Say, any guesses? Thankfully, we're moving beyond the days of coded texts, I have to say, thanks to the ease of texts. And hopefully your student also has a sense of audience. They know that parents and family members are not so good at decoding these things. So even if it doesn't look like this, the sentiment might be the same, that you're going to receive a text that says something like, and here it's saying, too much to handle, and a man with a baseball cap with his tongue sticking out, crying like a baby, and there's a little emoticon crying. Call me, hugs and kisses, love ya. Now, it might take a different form for your particular student, of course, but that sentiment is inevitable, at least once, if not many times, right? And I'm sure you've already encountered it throughout their life to date. So you follow up with your student, and maybe they say something like, you know, I thought I was going to major in biology, but now I'm thinking art and visual culture. I'm so confused, I don't know what to do. Or they say to you, you know, I have no idea what classes to take next semester, totally lost. Or they say, everybody else has their life all figured out, and I am clueless. What do I do? Now, it's inevitable you're going to hear those things, because I hear them all the time in my office, in my classroom, and I know faculty and staff across Bates hear those exact sentiments. And all of those are very specific to one domain or aspect of your student's life, which is purposeful work. They're going to face challenges and opportunities in a lot of different areas of their life, but purposeful work is what we're going to focus on today. So before we talk about how to deliver a consistent message that partners you and campus, Let's step back and talk about what purposeful work actually is. First and foremost, purposeful work is something that your student has been engaging in for years and is engaging in now and throughout their Bates career and post-Bates. Purposeful work isn't something that's just a paid endeavor that's way out there waiting for them after graduation, and that's really important. So we conceptualize at Bates work as much broader than career. So on campus, your students' purposeful work includes their co-curricular activities, their athletic involvement, their community engagement, student employment, the meaningful summer experiences they're engaged in addition to coursework and any other paid endeavors that they're engaged in. So much broader idea. Secondly, what makes the purpose side of purposeful work? Well, it's about the person feeling something within themselves. And that something is that it's meaningful. The endeavor they're engaged in is meaningful to themselves. Importantly, we don't judge what is purposeful. So it is not any of our place to say, oh yeah, that person's doing something really purposeful and that person not so much. No, it is individually derived. But it does have to have an element of impacting others. There has to be something out there that is being affected by the individual, because purpose, we know from research in psychology, is an other-focused activity. It's not a self-focused activity. So if you put all of those together, that's really what we're talking about when we talk about purposeful work at Bates. It's connecting work, launching them into careers, helping them determine what's meaningful to themselves while helping them gain an understanding of their personality, their values, their interests, their strengths, and helping them learn about the world's needs and the ways they can address those needs. And this is happening at Bates across departments and programs throughout campus. Our initiative is something that isn't just housed in one office by any means, and you see it happening in the curriculum and beyond the curriculum. Today, I'm not going to go into extreme depth during my formal presentation about our programming. I'm happy to dig into it more during the Q&A, but I really want to stay on the topic of messaging because that's the way you can help us best work through purposeful work in the coming year in particular. So this may sound like nice and wonderful. Sure, great purpose, that would be nice, but many of us, I'm sure, have had experiences where we weren't deeply engaged in the work we were doing, paid or unpaid. Maybe it didn't feel meaningful to ourselves. Maybe it didn't feel like it was impacting people. And I often hear from students in my classes, yes, that purpose thing would be terrific, but it's icing on the cake. Sort of, that's not the whole of it. This is where I get really excited because it does matter. There's a lot of research out there showing that it matters, but what's most compelling is the research conducted by Gallup. So Gallup surveyed individuals in 150 countries around the world, at least 1,000 representative individuals in each of those countries, to try to dig into the question of what creates well-being, what makes a person feel good. And they found that there's various types of well-being. There's physical well-being, which is comprised of our health and our energy to do what we want to do each day. There's financial well-being. Are we able to handle and manage the inflow and outflow so that we don't feel horribly stressed about any imbalance there? There's social well-being, which hinges on our relationships. Do we have people in our lives that we love and care for, and do we have people who love and care for us? There's also community well-being. Do we feel a part of where we live, like we belong there, and we are actively engaged in that community? Those 4 types of well-being were found around the world as being extremely important. And I don't know about you, but this sums up what my mom has always wanted for me. She said, I just want you to be happy and healthy, and if you can support yourself while you do it, perfect. And that's probably a big goal we all have for our children and the people we care for, is get them to a place where they're happy, healthy, and supporting themselves. So Gallup is really zeroing in on something that makes a lot of intuitive sense. The big question is, how do we get those? And Gallup wanted to know, of course. What they found is there's a 5th type of well-being, and it's something that Gallup titled career well-being. It is not just about paid work, it's about any endeavor, how you're spending your day, And what they found is that people are high in career well-being if they like what they're doing every day and if they're using their strengths every day. So that's career well-being, the fifth type. Now here's the kicker. People who are high in career well-being are twice as likely to be high in these 4 types of well-being. I'll say that again because it's that important. People who are high in career well-being are twice as likely to be high in these 4 types of well-being. In other words, purpose isn't icing on the cake. It's not even the cake because dessert's superfluous, right? We don't need it. It's really the meal. It's the sustenance. It provides for all of these other pieces that we think are so important and certainly are in a variety of ways. Purpose matters. So, given that, how do we support our students' purposeful work here at Bates and beyond? Well, I'm going to focus mostly on the first year because it's most salient to where you are right now, and then I'll give you a preview of what's to come in the years afterwards. In this first year, the message that we send through the Purposeful Work Initiative, and indeed across campus as faculty and staff members, is explore. This might not come as a surprise from a liberal arts college, right? You're sort of like, oh yeah, okay, liberal arts college, exploration, yes, I know. Well, yes, we are a liberal arts college, but there's actually 2 points to this. One, exploration really does matter, which I'll dig into in a moment, and there's a reason why liberal arts colleges think it's so important. And 2, you can explore, and students should explore wisely. It shouldn't be the approach of kind of throw the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. It should be thoughtful exploration. So we'll dig into that a bit more too. So let's start with why exploration matters. So why giving the message, time to explore, it's your first year, try different things out. Why do we do that? Well, for one, from identity development research, we know that people who don't go through the exploration stage, who just kind of narrow in on something and just pick it and stick with it, those individuals are much more likely to have lower sense of purpose than people who have done some exploration and then found what their true identity was. So we just established why purpose matters, and hence exploration really, really matters. The other note is that exploration isn't something that you just get to skip over and never do, which I see students always want to do. They get anxious. It's a very scary thing to not know exactly what's coming next or what you want to do next. So it's tempting to want to jump over that phase and say, I'm just going to do this thing over here. It feels good to be sure, even though I'm not sure why I'm sure. I'm just going to be sure. The problem is that then the student is going to, at some point, have to cycle back and do that exploration process. And it's often at a point that is less developmentally appropriate and when there's less structures in place to support them. So during the first year of college, sophomore year of college, really, the college experience, they have so many supports around them. They have faculty and staff, they have programming, they have peer networks that make it normative to do this exploration in a way that's going to be productive. If you're like my career coaching clients who I've had, who have almost 2 and 1 been 28 and 29-year-olds, right on that precipice of the 30s, suddenly realizing that they narrowed too fast, and now they're trying to figure it all out. And to be clear, we all throughout our lifetimes go through figuring it out and then exploring. But the depths of exploration that come upon someone who's never done it in the college years is really intense and can be very difficult to work through. So that's a really important point about exploration. You have to do it at some point. So how do you do exploration? How do we help our students explore wisely? Well, as I said, they've been engaging in purposeful work for years, right? And through that purposeful work, they have been gaining information about their personality, their values, what matters to them, their interests, and their strengths. They may not see that they've been gaining information about that, and that's where your role comes in, to reflect back to them things like, hey, you remember when you were tutoring people in the libraries 2 years ago? You seemed really excited and really engaged in this deep way. Or remember when you were taking that physics class on a whim last year and it seemed to challenge you in all the right ways? Have you considered taking another class like that? Reflecting back to them so they're not feeling like they have to explore by trying everything, every co-curricular at Bates and every department at Bates. it's selective exploration, right? Based upon where they've already been. So that's a really important message to be sending. If they do that well, if they actively take advantage of being in a liberal arts environment, particularly in the first year, then they'll be ready, naturally ready. And I've seen this countless times in my 13 years here, to narrow in. It's the year we ask them to pick majors and to pick their concentrations or minors. And if it's been done in a healthy way, they're ready to do that. They had a sense of, yeah, I tried these things out, and I think that I want to move here. This is where I want to gain some depth. And again, your reflective lens that you provide is so valuable in this regard to help them see the pieces of their puzzle that they may be missing themselves. Then junior year is all about testing it out, trying things. This is when many students just choose to engage in off-campus study. They engage in meaningful summer experiences, often before and after this junior year. They're making decisions about their topic for a senior thesis. These are all ways of testing the hypothesis that they've formed about themselves based on all these puzzle pieces of their personality, values, strengths, and interests. And again, you can serve a really vital role in saying to them, test that out, try it out. Students, I have found, and this is shown, that they tend to want to do thought experiments, but not real experiments. So getting out and trying something is where you gain the most knowledge. Getting out and doing, and then reflecting on that doing is absolutely essential. And if they do all of that, then they'll be ready senior year to talk to people. Talk to people. And why do I say that? It's because they now have a sense, and with your guidance and assistance, a sense of all their pieces, but they probably still don't know how they fit together. Seniors often are still grappling with the answer there. And the way we form narrative is in social relationships. We come to gain a sense of ourselves and a narrative about where we've been, who we are, and where we want to go by talking to people. Talking to you, talking to extended family members, talking to faculty, talking to staff, talking to employers that they've had over the summertime or at other occasions, talking, very importantly, to Bates alumni who have been here and who have had these same puzzle pieces and have fit them together in various different ways. And a lot of purposeful work programming hinges on having alumni involved to help facilitate those exact conversations. That narrative that the student forms through the talking, and it's not talking to people, students often say, oh, well, I'm supposed to know the answer when I talk to people. No. Having those conversations of, I understand this about myself, I understand this about the world, what do I do with this? When they have that narrative, it's going to serve them not only internally, but externally, because it will be invaluable on cover letters and in interviews and all those pragmatic senses. And not incidentally, talking with individuals is also probably how they're going to land their first job. You probably know that even though the statistics are widely debated, somewhere between 40 and 80% of jobs are gained through networking, and most of those are unadvertised. So talking is how we make all of this happen, both in a sense of feeling good about what we're doing and in terms of actually being able to progress forward in the way that we'd like to, well beyond Bates. But that's 4 years out. Focus now on this first year exploring. If you start talking about the testing and the talking too soon, you're going to cut off that developmental process. So it's all about all of us coming together, agreeing on a consistent message that we can deliver to our students so that they can make the most of their purposeful work, both at Bates and beyond.